Okay, well, it looks like we're a couple minutes past the hour, so let's dive right in. Once again, my name's Jason Webster. I'm the principal for the Mid-Atlantic for eGroup. You know, I've been with eGroup for 12 years, and I've had the opportunity to serve in a lot of different roles and to work with a lot of different clients, both from a technical and sales as well as business development standpoint. So really excited to bring this topic to you today. This is something we've done annually for the last 4 years, which is really as Microsoft starts to kick off their new year, a whole slew of funding programs come out that help organizations be able to kind of continue, accelerate, or even start their cloud adoption. So what we've got for you today is a little bit, slides moving, there we go, is to really share how you can start, continue, or accelerate your cloud transformation by leveraging these Microsoft incentive programs. And the way I want to go ahead and go about tackling that is first do a quick introduction of eGroup and Microsoft. Those who have been regulars on our weekly tech talks, as you know, we'll keep it brief on who we are, but definitely want to tell you a little bit more about what we do and how we do it. But really focusing more on the successful outcomes we've seen from using this funding. I think it's one thing to be able to apply for manufacturer funds to be able to get projects done, but it's more important that you receive the outcomes from that in terms of being able to serve your clients better, whether those are external clients or internal clients, also known as employees. And then I'll go over some of the high level incentive programs that are available, primarily two very popular ones. One is the Microsoft Azure Everywhere program that helps organizations be able to learn, govern, educate, migrate, do a lot of different things in the public cloud, whether you're pretty mature in it or you're looking to just get started. And then the other one is the Modern Workplace Everywhere program, also known as Microsoft 365, that is on the other side of the cloud, things around the productivity tools and business process automation, common tools like Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Exchange, OneDrive, and all of the different developer low-code, no-code tools that are available to you to help you get started in the software as a service cloud. And then a third one, we'll talk about in-customer incentive funds. This is the one we get the most questions around because where the first two are more programmatic programs with very clear kind of engagements and outcomes, the in-customer incentive funds are our opportunity to get creative. If you have a specific goal, we can look at that. We can look at the result of the goal, and I'll tell you a little bit more about how we can go about getting projects fully funded, partially funded, to be able to achieve more flexible goals. And then lastly, how to get started, which really becomes down to, if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the questions chat as we go through it. But certainly I'll be passing along contact information, but telling you how you can get started with these throughout. Let's dive in. A little bit about eGroup. We're a Microsoft Gold national solution provider that serves over 300 commercial and enterprise customers across 26 states and territories in North America and really throughout the world. Our customers take us to pretty much every continent, last time I looked, as well as various countries and across many different lines of businesses with Microsoft, but also with our other core partners in the data center and everywhere in between, groups like Nutanix and Cisco and Pure Storage and Zerto and Rubrik and Citrix, all the different technologies that make up data center and cloud architectures. And kind of give you an idea of some of the groups we work with. I would imagine, looking at the registration list here, a few of you are going to see your own logos, but some of those 300 accounts, and as you can see, some of them are very large, some of them are healthcare, some of them are legal, some of them are public utilities, universities, manufacturing, financial, all across the board. eGroup is very believing that, when we talk about cloud solutions, we talk about cloud being an operational model, not necessarily a destination for organizations. So you can do cloud on-prem, you can do cloud in the public cloud, or you can do cloud in a colo facility with the right technologies that drive simplicity and security. And we believe that the solutions that we provide apply to all businesses, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're a government agency, financial, or, kind of small town municipal. So one of the ways I like to talk about funding programs, as I mentioned earlier, is where we've had success. And the way that I kind of describe that success is I did a count the other day, and I think we delivered somewhere around 70, 75 of these funded engagements last year. And when we say last year, Microsoft runs on the fiscal year, so July 1st was their new year. So that's why all these programs are coming out. So I pulled a couple of them from the top of the stack, but when you look at these, particularly things like Windows Virtual Desktop and modern workplace design and migration, there's probably multiple stories where we can say we've adapted to help different organizations meet different goals. Really, their unique challenges with the same solutions, but these ones really stood out. So, kind of starting at the top, one of them was a modern workplace design and migration. And for those of you not familiar with the Microsoft terminology, modern workplace is what they describe as their Office 365, enterprise mobility and security, also known as Azure AD and Intune, as well as Windows 10. So when they talk about modern workplace, they're really talking about how clients, meaning your end users from a variety of devices, can be managed, connect securely, ensure that their information is protected, but be able to access the cloud resources like email, file shares, SharePoint data, Teams collaboration, voice and video, as well as the custom business processes that you can build on the tools there effectively. So it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. This organization in particular was actually a G Suite customer that had a couple thousand users total in G Suite. About 900 to 1,000 of them were actual employees, and another 1,000 were external users that were doing different things like authentication. And they invited us in, and we're skeptical at first and said, so tell us why Microsoft 365. And we came in and did a one-day workshop on site in their environment back when we're traveling heavily and doing all those things. We've adapted their processes to do these virtually these days for sure, to tell them how Microsoft compares to G Suite and how the transition could happen and how they could have more success in their organization for their external users as well as their internal ones by leveraging tools like Exchange, OneDrive, Teams, Azure AD Premium from a security standpoint is a big standout, as well as leveraging tools like Intune and some of the things around it to be able to manage devices. And as they were going through this, they were in the process of acquiring another business that they needed to merge in. And one of the things that were driving this was that this other business had already kind of been fully mature in adopting the Microsoft 365 suite. So they wanted to be able to create a level playing field amongst the acquired business and the existing business. And typically when that happens, the acquired business kind of loses out and they get pulled into the existing way of doing things. But after reviewing a lot of the different tools and technology available, they decided, the acquired business was more effective, doing it better, and seemed to have a passion for the tools that they were using that didn't exist in the current business on G Suite. So we were able to secure $28,000 in total funds across a couple projects, one being an assessment and design and one being a migration, to consolidate those two companies, 900 users, and are continuing into this financial year to be able to expand it to the full 2,000. Thought that was a good one just because there was a lot of technical complexity. There was a lot of different things in there, but being able to grab the funding and be able to show the value and quickly over a period of a couple months be able to execute on the time of those mergers and acquisitions was fairly impressive for how quickly the teams work together. Another one that's come up a lot is Windows Virtual Desktop deployments. This was something that really spiked in the last 6 months, the last 3 in particularly, as organizations were kind of looking, how do we continue to maintain our security, but get users connected into legacy systems that typically were only available through the corporate LAN network, meaning being in an office or through a VPN, which meant we're going to have to license a bunch of additional VPN licenses to get people connected. Microsoft ran and is still running a great program to be able to pilot and do proof of concepts into Windows Virtual Desktop so that you can connect Azure to your data center, or if you're in Azure today, obviously the Azure resources, but be able to deploy desktops quickly, have them scale, have them only be billed when utilized, all of those great things that can drive efficiencies in VDI environments with the public cloud. But how do we get those there, and how do we get them to perform? After a quick design session, we settled on Azure as the platform, frankly, because it's a Windows Virtual Desktop, and that's the platform it has to run on. But also the Windows Virtual Desktop VDI instance, but also using Azure NetApp Files, which is a Azure and NetApp collaboration service to deliver high performance file shares so that VDI performs the way it's expected and supposed to. They were looking to really just get those up rapidly. So one of the good things we were able to do was secure nearly $20,000 in funding and had initial 25 desktops deployed, configured, and tested. And testing went really well within the first week. And then after that first week, everything was a thumbs up. It was all about just how do we scale it. And with VDI in the cloud, the great thing about it is scale is virtually limitless. And a few clicks of the mouse, a couple of scripts, you can scale up, scale down as rapidly as you need to. So great success. All in all, we probably have executed on 10 to 12 of those in the last 3 to 6 months, particularly as the Windows Virtual Desktop service has become mature and production ready. And then the last one, there's a lot of things in between these, but one that I think is always extremely valuable, which I always call, kind of more of the higher risk projects, which involve software, is automating business processes. Something I'm hearing a lot talking to clients today is, how do we take paper processes? How do we take the processes where one person would walk a piece of paper, or they would check on the person next door to them? How do we adapt our processes for virtual work and people working from home in different locations with things like e-signature and digital document workflows and different things like that? eGroup has done this for over 10 years now, going back to when we used to do a lot of these in SharePoint on premises, as well as different tools through things like Windows Workflow Foundation. But I don't think we've ever been more successful with it until it became standardized in the cloud. And the reason that is the combination of SharePoint Online, Microsoft Teams, and then the Power Platform tools like Power Automate, Forms and Flow, Power Platform from a mobile development, mobile device deployment standpoint, brings everything together in a way that it's designed from the ground up to work together. So we don't have to spend as much time, meaning dollars from a services standpoint, designing integrations between platforms. We can really look at a business process from a business outcomes level, understand exactly what the workflow the organization needs out of it, really get down to, how can we tighten up this process so that it can be automated? And then we have a suite of tools that allow us, with very little code and a lot of flexibility, to be able to digitize those processes with solutions that are designed to work together and are designed to be scalable and supportable for the future. So don't have to spend a lot of time, doing upgrades of applications, or when you go from SharePoint 2010 to SharePoint 2013, investing a lot of dollars in that. And sometimes these are the most valuable solutions because they speak to the most valuable value to the business. So we were able to secure $34,000 in total funding to not only define that process from a business process design standpoint, not looking at the tools first, understanding what the business needed, and then letting the tools match the process, but being able to go through a paperless invoice processing system so that an organization could get rid of the, kind of the in and out box stacks of paper that are on their desk. But thought that was a good example, and there's a lot more that we'll kind of share kind of in line as we go through the presentation. So not a lot of slides left, but we're going to dive right into the incentive programs. And as I mentioned, these things can be a little nuanced. So I'm going to try to break them down as simply as possible. One of the things that I would ask is, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I'll answer them the best I can now. But the goal of this conversation really is to find some of these projects where we've done in the past, or maybe some things that you all are thinking about doing. And if you have a question of whether it fits into an incentive program or not, please just ask, because that's obviously the easiest way to do this. We can kind of tell you how we can, work the different programs, and there are other programs available. The idea there is that good ideas that leverage the cloud and solve business results for you can typically be funded for you. So the first one I mentioned, Microsoft Azure Everywhere. I think Azure Everywhere is probably in its 4th or 5th year of since the inception of it. And it's been a program that has really helped us help organizations get the cloud right from the start. And what we mean by that is a lot of organizations or a lot of people think that cloud adoption starts with spinning up the first workload. But what we do with Azure Everywhere is we spend a good amount of time talking about things like cloud governance, talking about things like rollback-based access controls. How do you secure it? How do you, once you have it secure, or once you limit the cloud to the capabilities that you want by using things like policies and initiatives so that people can't do things that they're not supposed to do, how do you ensure that it stays configured the way that you meant it to? In the data center, that challenge can be a little bit easier because you have limited resources and limited hardware. But in the cloud, you have almost nearly unlimited resources and unlimited solutions that can be deployed at the click of a mouse. And what you want to be able to do is to put those into, a workflow similar to how you have them on premises. Like, this is the idea that we want to execute. This is how we're going to design and build it. This is how we're going to secure it. This is the people that need access to it, the networking, all of that stuff. The cloud makes that stuff a lot simpler, but there also is the dangers in doing so. So what we like to do with Microsoft Azure Everywhere is help organizations get those configurations right the first time based on the needs that they specifically have for the cloud. If you're going to deploy a web application, let's design your cloud to support and deploy only web applications. And if something else happens, whether malicious or accidental, we can we have a change process to be able to do that. So by going into this, the program is available for all unmanaged customers. What that means in Microsoft's world is if you don't have a Microsoft account executive, you're in what they call an unmanaged customer world. So you're able to use this program once a year. Select managed customers, and people that have Microsoft account execs will know kind of what this means. But basically, this program is geared towards helping people start their cloud adoption or move a specific workload there early on. So organizations that are 100% in the cloud and looking to do different things, this isn't for you, but there are other programs that are available. And it's also available for public sector customers. So if you are a municipal government, state entity, you are absolutely eligible to use these programs. So this year, as opposed to kind of having a blended program, it's designed in two buckets. So everybody above that we just talked about is eligible for each. So one of them is a workshop activity, which is really that discovery session I was talking about, where we'll come in and provide, help with a strategy and plan, make sure that you're cloud ready. We'll talk about governance, or we'll do all of the above. We'll get into things like networking design, basically the whiteboard sessions to ensure that you have a firm understanding of how the cloud can solve your problems. And then the second bucket is when you decide, okay, now that we've done that and we feel confident in how we're going to do this, this is the first workload that we want to tackle. Those adoption and migration activities, things like doing proof of concepts, pilots, actual production migrations, or even further Azure fundamentals enablement, where you want to bring in multiple parts of your IT teams to be able to be trained. All of those are eligible. You can stack those together. You can do one or the other, any combination of it. And as I mentioned from examples last year, one of the things we did with that is a lot of architecture and design, getting the cloud right the first time, but also things that are easy to adopt. Organizations looking to offload primary storage, secondary storage from their data centers or DR sites, maybe even trying to get rid of the disaster recovery site, all the infrastructure you hope you never have to use altogether. How can the cloud help you with that? How can we design and build those and save you money, but also increase your capabilities? Virtual desktops, we were talking about that, whether it's, Windows Virtual Desktop, or we're talking about Citrix, or even things like, if you're a VMware Horizon, which, I personally have deployed a lot of VMware Horizon environments. How can that work? And how can we have scalability in Azure with Horizon? Everything to, if you're a Nutanix customer and you're looking to do things like Nutanix Frame. So eGroup has a fully robust end user computing practice that has worked with a lot of those. And we've done Azure POCs and production deployments across the board. Another one, I see this a lot more in financial and legal organizations, especially because of their file needs, but cloud file shares. How do we get that massive amount of data that's stored on expensive storage on premises that is frankly just archive data that we may or may not use, may or may not be accessed frequently. How can we leverage, cheap and deep cloud storage to save us dollars on that, but still make that accessible at the click of the mouse to the end users? That's been a very popular topic, mainly just because of what it saves as well as the capabilities it still delivers. And then lastly, adoption roadmaps. We get a lot of organizations saying, this is where I am today. I have a data center refresh coming up. Again, we're about cloud being an operational model, not necessarily a destination. So when we say that, we mean, organizations will have data center footprints, they'll have cloud capabilities. What's the right mix in between? But building those roadmaps to understand what applications makes the most sense for the cloud and what applications need to stay in the data center and how can we run those most efficiently, but also have them all work together and have them work together securely. We build a lot of roadmaps and step by step, this is what we need to do from month one all the way out to, 3-year plans going forward for organizations to help build their strategy about how to become cloud first or, leverage cloud intelligently. So how do you get it? This one's always the easy one. You'll see this recurring. Reach out to me, reach out to the people at eGroup, reach out to your Microsoft team. Tell them that eGroup introduced you to this and that you'd like to know more. My ask, as will be on all of these programs, is that you just kind of tell us how you think you can benefit from it, and we'll help you we'll be flexible and help you figure out the best funding program to track. So the second one of 3 is the Microsoft 365 Everywhere. You heard me earlier define Microsoft 365. When we talk about this, we're really talking about the Office 365 suite. So Exchange Online, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, and the Power Platform, as well as several other applications that you can engage in there, things like Planner and Tasks and all of that good stuff, with security. So when we talk about enterprise mobility plus security, we're really talking about the advanced capabilities of Azure Active Directory Premium, whether that's with Windows 10 or with inside the Office 365 suite, or even extending into Azure, as well as Windows 10. How do we get the modern Windows 10 experience for all of our users so that we can efficiently keep endpoint devices managed and up to date? We can measure who's accessing our environments and restrict access, all of those good things. That's really what we're talking about with Microsoft 365. And a common use case of this is helping organizations go beyond Exchange Online and OneDrive. And how can they enhance their security? How can they eliminate third-party products that are more expensive, adding complexity to their environment, to consolidate into a platform that's designed to work together, but also ensure that we're still protecting our information and we're not putting all our eggs in one basket. So the availability of this one is to managed customers. Unlike the prior one, this one is not available to unmanaged customers, but there's different programs out there for some of these. We're trying to highlight some of the most popular ones. And this one's available to all managed customers. It's not a select list of them, and it's based on some criteria. And public sector customers, again, so organizations that are not on a cloud solution provider license, but most public sector customers can kind of split the difference between how things are licensed, but they're available for you as well. So, and in this one, there's a lot we can talk about and a lot of capability, but really, just like the Azure Everywhere one, we want to start with a purpose. We want to start with exactly what you're looking to accomplish, but we also want to spend some time educating and enabling on what's available. So as we go through that, a sample agenda, again, highly flexible, could look like education and enablement across all the tools. Some organizations are saying, I've been on Office 365 forever, but I'd love to figure out how to get rid of my on-premises call center capabilities and move to cloud voice. That's something that we can talk about, and that's something we can leverage this for, or we can talk about the entire stack, right? And moving into the downstream days, day 2 and day 3, is once we've done that education goes both ways. Typically, it's us telling you about some capabilities based on what you've told us. We know a lot more about your goals in the business. We can get down to narrowing down exactly what you want to accomplish. And that really comes down to just building an implementation and roadmap plan, as well as addressing all the security and compliance concerns. and identity and access, so that we can ultimately deliver you, this is what it's going to cost from a licensing standpoint most effectively, as well as this is what it's going to take to make it happen. And then going to the next, we can start to deploy some of these things, over the coming days, get you some proof of concept so that you get a taste of, exactly how it would work, so the end users are, whether it's in a proof of concept or a pilot, are actually using these environments and getting familiar with them, typically with your IT team or with your power users. One thing I will call out as part of this is there are additional incentives stackable available for Microsoft Teams adoption. So if that's something that you're looking at, it's extremely popular these days with remote work, reach out to us and we can get you some more details on those. It's basically based off the number of users and what you're looking to deploy. So some of the examples we did last year and really years prior, but it's really taken off with the Microsoft 365 platform, is that standard governance conversation, making sure that data is secure, making sure it's protected, making sure your cloud is configured the way you think it is. To the basic things like Exchange and OneDrive migrations. I think a lot of organizations have taken that on or are currently moving into that. To the business process automation use case we were talking about that could have limitless possibilities that are very unique to your business. Secure identity, single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, and cloud access security brokers. Those are really important as organizations start to develop and adopt their own applications, third-party clouds, as well as Microsoft solutions. How do we get all those to work together? Teams, how do we go beyond chat and just having conversations, over video internally? How do we do things like integrating forms and business processes and the real collaboration capabilities, third-party applications into those, so that Teams becomes the primary place for doing business, maybe taking it out of email sun, as well as, normal things like we've done, taking SharePoint, whether you're still on SharePoint 2003, WSS, way back when I started with SharePoint, or all the way up to 2016 and beyond, to how do you get that to SharePoint Online, or how do you do some work in SharePoint Online where you're at today? So again, lots of different things that we can do with this, be flexible with it to meet your use case. And how do you get it? Same as always, reach out to us, reach out to Microsoft. We can definitely help you. The last one I've got is the enigma a lot of customers ask about, which is the end customer incentive funds, commonly known as ESIF. This is basically, when we talk about the catch-all for managed customers, and as well as other organizations, even going into public sector customers, this is where the ones where if we can't find one of the programmatic programs that have the strict admittance and the actual results we want to deliver and make something fit, but it's something that is going to be a successful use case for adopting Microsoft 365 or Azure or any Microsoft cloud capability. We have the ability to work with your Microsoft account team, quantify exactly what that's going to look like, go through those planning sessions, and come up with a mutually agreed upon funding mechanism for it. And some of those ones that I shared, particularly the one that was $34,000, or probably a more recent one where there was a government institution doing a massive rollout to 20, 30,000 users. Investment can be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars based on the licensing and all the different things you're adopting. So this is commonly known as the kind of the magic bag of cash. Is what we joke about. It's on a case-by-case approval basis. We can do customized scopes, working with teams like Microsoft Fast Track and some of the other professional services benefits you may get through Microsoft. But it's all focused on driving utilization and adoption for the business case that you need. So typically they do result in larger funding for larger commitments. So if you've got a big project you're looking to get done, this is definitely where you want to be. And as you can see from the examples from the prior year, we do about 50-50 between these types of engagements and the programmatic engagements. But these ones can cover the entire gamut that we just discussed, from modern workplace to SharePoint to Microsoft Azure migrations, roadmaps, deployments, security implementations. It's really across the board. So how you get started with that one as well is engage eGroup or your Microsoft team. Let's talk about those needs, and let's talk about whether maybe that fits more into the programmatic bucket or maybe into the larger incentive bucket, or both, right? Because that's definitely a possibility as well, depending on the use case. So I know we're right at time, and I'm at my last slide, so I can hang around a bit and answer some questions from the chat, but definitely wanted to thank you. If you have any follow-on questions or anything like that, my contact information is on the screen. Feel free to call me, shoot me an email, share kind of some of your thoughts and projects with me, and I'll be glad and happy to direct you in the right direction. Thank you.